Hi, everybody. Here we are again, Jill, Renee Feeler, and I, for episode 7 of our podcast series. Wow. Hi, Jill. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I feel like I got catapulted into a new dimension again, so I'm finding my way. It's a frequent experience for me, so I'm like, yeah, let's go and see what happens today. Yeah, fantastic.
Mhm.
So yes, thank you. I've been really enjoying the comments and I've been having some great conversations with some of my friends of mine about what we've been talking about, and that's
Oh,
been
good.
really fun. So please
Hmm.
comment. We do like them. We will take topics off of them, and we appreciate you sharing what we share here too and spreading the word. So, did you have anything you want to add before we get into topic, Jill?
Nope. I'm all open. I feel like
Fantastic.
I'm 10 different versions of myself today, and I love it. So it feels extra special when we're getting together once a week because it's a beautiful place for us to experience that depth of ourselves when the rest of the world doesn't always ask that of us. So that's one of the reasons why I like this work.
Yes. Yeah, and I let's just let me add a little bit to that. What I'm really inviting people, or we are really inviting people to do here is to have that experience for yourself, because the energetics that we bring in, the topics we bring in, we get to experience more versions, more ideas, and be inspired, hopefully, by the things that we talk about here. So I love that, and that's just really fun. So yeah. All right, well, let's dive in, shall we? Um,
Yes.
so the topic, Jill and I briefly talked before we recorded, and what came through or what we picked from our list was denying our humanity. And I love this topic, and part of it came from a conversation Jill and I had previously, where I heard somebody say to encourage people to not claim their humanity. And they said, "Oh, I've got this written and I put it on my refrigerator, and I encourage all you to do the same thing." And the phrase was, "I am not human." And something inside of me just went, "Oh." And for me, I love our humanity.
Mhm.
The best of our humanity. And I know personally, I've walked through a lot of different situations to really be here. And it's taken
Mhm.
effort and it's taken heart and it's taken whatever it's
Mhm.
taken to be really in my natural, source as self
Mhm.
space. And I love to live from that place. And that is very human,
Mhm. It
very human.
is interesting when I look at it in terms of those that are in a traditional faith-based life. They Oh, I can tell my dog needs to go outside. Janet, can we pause the recording? I apologize. Her little pet door is not accessible because they were doing landscaping today, and she's pacing and stuff. So I don't want to be uncomfortable. I apologize. Do you know how to pause the recording? Good. Is it recording? Okay. All right. So when I look at the individuals that are in a more traditional faith-based, even religious sort of situation, when I've experienced my own version of that and with others that I work with and that, or just, friends and family, it's almost like if you had a spectrum, like an X and Y axis of fully human, but not spirit, in some traditional faith-based mindsets, they feel like all the way human and no spirit until they die. And then when they die, they get their spirit back, but they like don't have it here. So they have to sort of like clamor for it or beg for it or invite it in, like it's not a part of them and their normal kind of faith-based sense of self. And then in other in other groups, there is a sense of no, I'm not religious, I'm only spiritual. So then I want to be as much spirit as possible and as little human as possible. And I feel like that's kind of what you're talking about there, is that there are some more spiritual but not religious type of individuals that they're trying to diminish and minimize their humanness because they feel like they don't go together. They feel like you have to have one or the other and you can't have both. So it is kind of fun, I mean, for me, for my brain, to look at it in that context of it's some sort of one extreme or the other. And in my awareness of interacting with you, Janet, we both have this sense of they're not mutually exclusive. We can't not be spirit. We can't not be our soulfulness. And while we are in this reality as our humanness, we also can't not be human. So I love that you and I have, in our own individual journeys, allowed for this integration of our soulfulness, also called spirit, and our humanness, and they're not at the expense of the other. It's this wonderful combination that we have available to us. So I'm not trying to get out of my humanness, and I definitely don't want to only have my soulfulness until I die. I don't want to wait for my soulfulness and a connection to source energy. I don't want to have to, I know I don't have to wait to die to get that. So I want that now too. So it's sort of having your cake and eating it too.
Yeah, I completely agree with that because from my perspective, like Cosmic Janet can be one of my nicknames, right? Like I tend to work in the healing and the work that I do. We talk about coming from different realities and being connected to different realities and different energetics and different planetary systems and different universes. And so I have a lot of experience with that group of people where I get what we're shooting for, right? They have denied, we have denied, a lot of people have denied those kind of superpowers people look at them as. And it's basically an aspect of source. And it's an aspect of the source that I am. And I want to have that usable. I agree. I want to have everything usable to me
Here on
here
Earth
in
as
a
a
human
part of
body.
the cosmos. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so
Yep.
those people, because that's why I just was like, oh no. Like I want my cellular structure to have as
Mm-hmm.
much God consciousness in it as possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I want my heart to be as open as possible, connected to all the realms and dimensions, because there's so much innate creation power in that. And that's what I and so I get it. It's like, and that's I think the mistake in it, and not the mistake, but well, yeah. I mean,
The
I think
preference.
yeah,
Yeah.
the preference
Mm-hmm.
to like, well, no, 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 I gotta shut off that human because it's too small and have this, and you kind of like swing the pendulum that way and kind of get all these
Yeah.
other different vibrational frequencies online. But if you don't come back into the full human form, then how in the
Mm-hmm.
heck are we supposed to create in the physical? How in
Mm-hmm.
the heck are we supposed to interact with reality here? How are we supposed to really enjoy the beauty of the sunset? And really feel in every cell of our being. No, it's not. I don't find that possible. And it's so less
Yeah.
satisfying.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with you. I love everything that you just said, and thank you for putting into context that part of your no, Coda, come here. Coda, come here. Go girl. It's okay. Part of your special I apologize. I thought the landscapers were done and they're not done.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna put her in her crate. Then we can continue and she'll be okay. That's fine. So I'll be right back. Coda girl, come here. You're just keeping me hopping. Come right now. Come here. That's a good girl. You're okay. Okay. I know. Now you're telling me I'll lie down. I'll be quiet. Okay. There you go. Good girl. Okay. Mhm. Okay. Wow. Just, you guys knew all the interruptions we have had today. Crazy. So you have a comfort level with the the idea of like cosmic Janet and that sort of thing. And that's actually one of the reasons I like to partner with you, because I completely understand that. I appreciate that. I mean, the first name I went by as a business was Beacon for Lightworkers. I've talked about, galactic timelines, galactic councils. I can go way, way out there. And I also felt like, why? So my Jill tends to lend itself more towards there's a lot of amazing, talented beings, yourself included, that have specialized in that really, really out there sort of thing. And then I thought the challenge was how about I allow for that vastness and beyond space time framework that I know I am as a soul? And how much of that can I hold in my humanness? And how much of that can I utilize and share from as a spiritual teacher and a spiritual supporter, right, of others living soulfully, using everyday language that does not make anyone's eyes roll, that's in a more traditional kind of human experience, doesn't turn anyone away, doesn't have unusual jargon that a typical average person off the street that speaks English can't understand. How many normal words can I use to talk about the biggest, most vast ideas of energy that we've chosen to bring into our humanness while we're alive in this timeline? So I don't want to get preoccupied with what's going on in another timeline or another lifetime or a parallel life or a parallel universe, because for me, it felt like so many individuals that I interact with, they get really trapped in that, and they do start to have conversations like, well, I don't even feel human anymore. And I'm like, well, then why do you think you made a human to be? Why do you think you made a human to be, if then you get here and you feel like you've evolved to a certain level or something where you don't even want to be human anymore? You'd rather not be on Earth. You'd rather talk about some other planet or some other galaxy or some other universe. That seems a little counterintuitive to me. So I love to kind of, not trying to be rude with somebody that's having that experience, even if it is a client or somebody attending one of my courses, but just kind of invite them into another perspective, because it literally can block the most amazing range of energy from their humanness by having that mindset. So you're able to go all big and be such an integral part of that dialogue and that expansion, literally, of human energy, while and then loving the fact that, and I'm also human, and I'm it's almost like I'm demanding that they go together, and I'm so right next to you on that, Janet.
Mhm. I find that wow. I mean, I don't think there's anywhere I can't go or be, and I mean that, like, anywhere in all of creation, and I don't say that
Hmm.
to brag, I just say that's my experience, and what that
Yeah.
is, 'cause I'm, like, kind of adding to what you're saying here. So, everything for me is about practicality.
Hmm.
It's about, is it useful here? And some of us, it's so great because I get to serve so many different types of people. I mean, there's the people that work in such sort of out there woo-woo things, and I understand what they're saying. I can help them with the energetics. I can help them with being more of who they are and release any blocks or limitations they have with that part of what they do. And then
Hmm.
also, if you can't use it here, if you can't bring that here, I completely agree. You're missing a whole aspect of life because, especially, there's people here to do kind of the grid work or the gate work, and they're working with Gaia and other consciousnesses. And they do that just because it's a form of service. It's the same people that go out and plant trees because it's what they're guided to do, and they don't get paid for it. I mean, you've heard stories about how people have planted these huge forests and they've changed the whole landscape of that whole area, right? It's people that are just wired to do that, and that's what they've chosen, and that's cool, right? And those people still have to interact in this reality in some way. And there's such joy. The way the human heart and our body is structured, to be able to use those frequencies and those vibrations that we're aware of in this
Mhm.
way we in our everyday lives. And even if you do that kind of, grid work and gate work, and then you have kind of a normal job, that's not unusual either.
And if you I mean, there's a reason they would have elected to identify with that work while being human,
Mhm,
right? If there's something important about serving that role from within the human design template,
mhm,
then I would encourage anyone that has that sort of designation as an energetic grid worker and all of the other forms and similar adjacencies to celebrate the fact that I get to do that as a human.
mhm.
That doesn't take away from your humanity, that can add to your humanity.
Well, and the thing that we're really getting more into now is what our bodies can do has been very limited in terms of our awareness of that.
Mhm,
And we've had a certain density and a certain inability to do certain things. I mean, the way that we can heal, the way that we
mhm,
can affect reality, that is really shifting. And our cellular structure, this is, and I'm speaking from experience here, this is not theoretical to me. This is very much experiential how I I mean, I'll share some examples. How literally I'll be working with somebody and I can see like the energetics of their spine, it's not flowing freely. And so we take some of those energetics and, the person's always doing the work, but I support them in using these energetics to align the energetics of their spine, which does physical alignments. I mean, people will have chiropractic adjustments sometimes
mm,
during energetic work, because that's our bodies. We have not maximized what our bodies are capable of here. And
mhm,
so our bodies are actually multidimensional. And I think people that hang out in the other realities, the other realms, they're missing the point of what's possible here and how we can be of such, and I'll say service, and how we can bring so much more joy and love and heart expansive creation.
mhm,
If when I had my corporate job, I had no idea how I was using my skill set so that I now know are connected to, are basically way, kind of cosmic gifts, right? I had no
mm,
idea how actively I was using those things, and people can relate. You could call it intuition. You could call it, being a really great planner, like your visual abilities and capabilities to plan, it's better
mhm,
than anybody else in your company.
mm,
And it's because you have that level. It's how you're wired, it's how you're connected. And I see those connections, and people don't have to see that, but I see it very cosmically, and I can see where it's connected in the whole kind of cosmology of our planet. And so
mhm,
I love working with people like that where I can help them make adjustments and kind of connect the dots in a way or be more conscious of who they really are. And that's very human,
mhm.
very, very human.
How excited do you get when you have a client that you're working with that you know has a very traditional type of career or job?
Me?
How excited yeah, how excited do you
Oh,
get?
that's a question. Okay. I
Didn't sound rhetorical.
I am like a kid in a candy store when I work with people in general because the level of love
Okay.
and joy that I get when I get
Mhm,
those people. I mean, we've talked about there's a client I know who's a rocket scientist. Now
mhm,
that's a little bit more out there, but
mhm,
those types of people when I can and they're very much science-based. And when I see the light go off in them and they get brighter and they're like, like, I didn't know it could be that easy.
yeah,
And sometimes it's a matter of just going into the silence, you know, together with them and having them breathe, settle into their body, right? Maybe focus on an area that could be a little painful and letting
Mhm.
really find different dimensional capacities of their humanness.
Mhm. Mhm.
That to me is like, that makes everything worth it to me.
It really does, and I feel exactly the same way. There is and as I'm listening to you say that, Janet, it's clear to me that maybe because we've embraced our humanness so much and not expecting that to mean any sacrifices in terms of our soulfulness, that we
Mhm.
literally have the intention, the expectation, and the trust that there's a purpose to our humanness that is fully inclusive of our soulfulness. So I don't look at my humanness as a limiter to who and what I am as a soul. I look at it as a vehicle, right? So are there traditional human expectations that are too low for me? Yeah. So I don't let them apply. I don't look at it as, well, I'm only human, so I can't do that. I look at it as I'm my Jill version of my humanness, and I know this, and this, and I've experienced that, and that. So what do I want to allow here? Right. And there is a within reason component to it. I'm not expecting my body to fly like a being with wings, right? And yet I don't let that preoccupy my brain that there are some things I can't do. I'm too excited by all the things I can do.
Mhm.
So because of this, we are such an activated source of
Mhm.
source energy that all of our client work and anything we do literally has the capacity for transcendence within really anyone that will allow for it. So that's one of the reasons I will probably always do my spirit led work in addition to anything else that I'm curious to be trying out as my Jill while I'm here. I love that. I love that freedom, and I love that we allow that activated source energy to be freely available, or I should say readily available to the client or anyone literally that we're interacting with, because we know they have access to it too. And we're almost like, by being our light, we may help them feel more of their source energy, more of their creativity, more of their godliness, which means so many things: wisdom, compassion, self understanding, visionary roles. I mean, all of it. Our godliness is so vast. So it isn't belief based. The other recipient of the activated light that we're offering, they don't have to know what we know. They don't even have to believe what we believe, because it's activating beyond the brain. It's charging within them something that's always been there. And I believe that's why there are some individuals they just feel good when they're around us, right? And that, I'm not trying to make it as it's about us and not them. This isn't even, we're a carrier of the source energy. We're an operator of the source energy. That's what that's, I don't want to say triggered, but that's what they're charged by. Oh my gosh, I feel so good when I'm around you. And it's probably really more like, oh, you feel really good when you're with somebody that's allowing the source energy to flow. I know, right?
Mhm.
I wish more people would get out of their own way and stop overthinking it in terms of, oh, well, I know, and be all in their head. Oh, I know this, I know that. Oh, I have these impressive conversations. I kind of don't care. If I don't feel the source energy with my gifts and abilities, I I'm not interested in theoretical conversations if it's not being applied as the light that they are.
Mhm. So a couple things. Let's talk about heart.
Mhm.
The human heart, when we talk about being unlimited, when we talk about no limits on anything, and I know my human mind can't even comprehend what's possible. It really
Mhm.
can't, but my heart can.
Mhm.
So I could say that letting God work through me as me, right, is heart-based living, right? Now, faith-based people, I'm fascinated by this because I don't usually use that terminology, and it's not that I don't work with faith-based people, but I find it fascinating right now. So I wanna just, like, faith-based people, what we talk about love. We talk
Mhm.
about unconditional love, and a lot of religious institutions talk a lot about how to treat people, which is all unconditional love based, right? The true essence, that's what I believe the true essence of God is.
Mm.
It's that pure and really when I think about some of the sermons or some of the churches I've been to, the ones that kind of I feel good about and make other people feel good about is that heart-based unconditional love way of being in the world. And that's very practical. And that's not theoretical, that's action based.
Mhm.
And some of the religions haven't done a great job at providing mechanisms for people to practice that in their everyday life. Like to me, a lot of the religious institutions, if they had like the sermon and then they had, and here's how we practically apply this to our lives, because some people don't
Mhm.
even know what that means,
Yeah.
you know? So there's that. And I just kind of want to, I don't know, invite, challenge, like hmm, how do you let God move through you as you?
Mm.
How do you? Like, let's talk about that. Like, how do you know it's happening? Like, even talking
Mhm.
about my heart, to me, the way that we're connected is through our sacred heart, through our heart,
Mhm.
the portal, if you want to use that word, the connection point, the way we access those really incredible vibrational frequencies, which to me are all frequencies of unconditional love. It's
Mhm.
all love based. Ooh, so let's all just take a breath and drop into your heart, just like I drop into my heart, and allow that to happen. It's the embodiment of that heart based, unconditionally love based frequency where we all feel good. So, everybody, try to open up. I can feel it, the back of your heart. Like, just take a look there. A lot of times, there's stuff sitting there, like old stuff, patterns, feelings. Just take a look, and you don't have to do anything, just notice. And then breathe into your true heart, your true connection point to God, whatever you want to call it, universal life force, intelligence, pure source frequency, and breathe into that and let that expand out and kind of cleanse, purify, get rid of anything that's no longer of service or necessary here, that detracts from your life versus adding to it. Ooh, especially the ooh, can you feel that? Ooh, the back of the heart. Let's just do it. Everybody now. Love,
Mm.
love, and more love.
I'm going to add on to this, Janet. For anyone that, as we're having this conversation, just really imagine that some group or some idea that you've been confused by and let's just say felt less love for or felt division from, that you allow whatever that is sort of float from the left side of your energy field. You can envision it as like a maybe a cloudy ball sort of floating in from the left, and it sort of knows exactly to sit in your heart. You don't have to understand that. But
Mhm.
if you can allow God's love for it and for them and for that, you don't have to understand it. There we go. And I just felt the mind kind of give itself a break because for probably all of us, there are ideas that separate us from our ability to love another no matter what. And that's where the unconditional part comes in. So there's always this opportunity to refresh this ability of God's love to be such a core part of who and what you are, no matter what you do for a living, no matter what your knowledge database is, no matter what your faith and beliefs are. We always have more to love. And so it's a constant opportunity that we can have. And that I just, that can probably feel really good. And again, it might be confusing to your brain, but let's take another breath here and just let your brain be very confused about another person or another group or something that does not make sense to you. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to make sense to you for you to have love for that being and that group. You don't even have to agree with it or agree with them.
Right? And if you're so inspired, you can bring that mind down into your heart. Just drop an elevator line right down in there and let the mind be okay with the unknown. Let the mind relax. It's been trying way too hard to figure out things that it is not designed to figure out or understand. So you can give it a new job description where it's to follow the heart, it's to follow the source God that you are, those impulses.
Mm.
And then it can have more fun. Then the mind relaxes because it's not on edge all the time. It doesn't amp up your neurological system. And then it can be much more creative when it's connected to the source essence, when it has access, active
Mhm.
access to your unique source consciousness that nobody on the planet has like you has that.
Mm,
Wow, now that feels really good.
beautiful. Mm.
Really, really good.
As somebody that thank you for that, Janet, that was so good. As
Thank you.
somebody that really, I like to identify with my strong, capable brain, there was a part of me remember earlier when we were talking about, well, it's either soul or human, you gotta pick one, you're gonna gravitate towards. There was a part of me feeling like in order to be soulful and connected and operating in my heart, I had to let my brain soften or even go to mush, and I either had to be heart-based or strong brain, and I couldn't have both. And when I started to feel more clearly that that did feel like a polarity within what I was experiencing as spirituality and coming across, I just had another one of my many moments of, well, I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to let my brain be even more intelligent, even more sharp, even more clear to allow my source energy to be a high utilization of also my brain. I love my brain and I love my heart. And I didn't want it to be mutually exclusive. I wanted those to be integrated too. So it could be that some of the audience is also resonating with that, that experience, that exercise that you just offered could leave your brain feeling clearer and sharper and quicker than it did before. Because the brain is not a great translator or transmitter of our heart energy. They don't have to, it doesn't, don't ask it to do that. That's okay. It's totally okay that your brain doesn't understand how or why to love someone. You don't even need to give your brain a job.
You know,
It's
it's
so much
interesting.
easier.
I kind of laugh because we have organs that specialize in different functions.
Yes. Thank
And
God.
when we were at our optimum health, they're all working together.
Mhm.
So why have we kind of hierarchically, given our brain like a higher it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, who's you know what I mean? It's like we want everything to work together seamlessly,
Yes. Yeah.
cohesively, and of course, our brain has a capacity. When I
Mhm.
don't try to control it in that non-helpful way and try to make things happen when I can step back enough from that, we all know what I think everybody has a version of that within themselves. Then we can really allow that heart and brain to work together and not get confused about who's doing what, you
Mhm.
know?
That's
Like,
good.
you know?
And it's, I'm kind of playing with that idea in the other way too. Why also do we why is it necessary to feel like the heart is somehow superior to the brain? Because we have the human heart, we have like the soul sense of heart and God's love, but God's love can also be a major God's literally our God energy can be a major contributor to what our brain is doing and assisting in this world and operating within us as well. So the our source energy is not limited to only the heart, but we do prioritize. I think we even did it in the experience. We prioritize the heart over, and I'm still okay with that. And I love what you just said though. So I'm kind of teasing a little bit of well, why even does the heart need to be about? They all work together. They all can work harmoniously with the source energy we are, and one doesn't have to be hierarchically higher and in a higher in the higher part of the pyramid to the other. They all work together. That's good.
Well, one of the
We don't
func
need to deny any of our humanness.
none of it, and please don't. Please
Yeah,
don't. I
please
mean, one of the
don't.
functions, as I say see as the Sacred Heart, which is
Yeah.
a little different, right? Like, that's the thymus area, right, versus the physical heart, but they kinda all everything works together, right? The the reason it's not making it like higher in a hierarchical way, it's that its job is to help bring in frequency for us or
Mhm.
help us experience more of who we are. So it's sort of like the gateway. I mean, people do call it the gateway of the heart, right? For very
Yeah.
specific reasons, right? So that's just its job. It's like, let those work together. So it's nothing is better or worse. There's no such thing. I can't
Mm.
operate without my lungs. I can't operate without,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
they're all, and that's the
Let
same
it
with
all come through.
such
Yeah.
a great metaphor because
Yep.
that's the
And
same metaphor of the importance of all of us, right? In, out,
yeah,
same. Yeah, go ahead.
that's beautiful. I just had a memory as you were talking about that, that I remember earlier on in my work, so this was probably around 2010, there was this image that came to me of lollipop energy or like a sucker. So the huge part of the soul system was this big ball of energy, and the human energy was like the stick. So there was a really out of balance energy system where the soulfulness felt like it didn't fit. It felt like it didn't fit within the humanness. And
Mhm.
as I recognized that I was doing that, that I was definitely giving a higher priority to things that felt, spiritual and soulful, and the mundane things like, remembering where my keys are or getting the mail just felt like, oh, that's so boring. That's so human, and I'm so much better than that. It almost felt egotistical and really unattractive in a lot of ways. It's not a likable way to go about your soulfulness, right? And as I was like, why am I doing that? Why do I feel like my energy system is prioritizing the crown chakra and, upper energy systems, and I'm dedicating literally as little as possible to my core systems of my humanness. And I was like, I don't like that. I don't want to do that. So I had this image of like the Egyptian symbols of Ra, where the sun is above the deities. And I just imagine that energy of Ra just like gently, kind of almost like the setting sun, just like setting and anchoring right in the very, very center, epicenter of my physicality. And I just felt like a little kind of like a little pressure point, just like, there you go. That's the center, there you go. And it felt really weird at first because I felt my lower part of my body just go, this is so weird to have this. the sucker kind of energy, that lollipop energy, it feels weird and kinda heavy, and, like, I kinda liked it when it was a little bit more airy up there in the sky. I don't know if I like it down here so close to my knees and that sort of thing. It just felt like it's so boring in here in my humanness. So I let it be uncomfortable for a while, and then I realized that as a human, I felt way more charged up. I did not feel as energetically drained. I literally felt like I had more energy. I felt a more immediate sense of purpose in my humanness, and I got better. I mean, I already had pretty decent relationships, but I felt my human relationships got even better. I didn't wanna prioritize my relationship with source energy and with my team, what I call my team, I guess some would say spirit guides. I didn't want to prioritize that over my human relationships. I wanted them all to feel just as vibrant, just as equally satisfying and glorious and fulfilling. That was a breakthrough for me. And I now, I haven't used that metaphor as much, but I'm normally looking for that in others with client work and assisting them in getting, I use words more like getting all the way in their bodysuit and helping them feel their soulfulness all the way down to the tips of their toes. And it can be a very powerful upgrade for anyone at any point in their journey.
Mhm. Yeah, wow. I got lots of responses to that. The one I'll share
Good, I want to hear.
one I'll share right now is if I want to be free
Mhm,
here in this reality, I don't I'll share my experience, and this was 30 plus years ago. I didn't realize I was hanging out somewhere else besides here. Like I was so literally not here. Now, some people can call that dissociation. People with trauma, it's like I'm hanging out in the corner, right? Like that's not unusual where their full consciousness is not in their body. And it's a very difficult, I mean, talk about being handicapped. I mean, you don't have access to a lot of yourself when that's the case. So for me, what happened when I first popped down in my body, I felt it. And I was just like, oh, because it was stuck right here. Imagine that.
mhm,
Everything was stuck in my head, right? I was living from my head. And so when I popped down, I was like, oh my God. Like I knew why I wasn't here because my body hurt.
mm,
Like I was like, so my uncomfortability was very physical. And that's, everybody's wired a little differently. And this was 30 years ago. So, who knows what your experience if you're still hanging out in the clouds right now. But this idea, and Jill and I have talked about this, kind of the spiritual bubble of I am light pops and I get to be more here. And that's the only way I know how to be free here. If that consciousness can't move through my limbs and can't move through my heart and can't move through my legs, I am not free. I am
mm,
missing out on the sensuality that my belief system is we can only do that in this way in human bodies. And we all wanted to be here because it's such an amazing experience to feel unconditional love in my toe.
mhm,
It's extraordinary. So, and I've been increasingly, I've done some recent sharing about just the level of pain I feel being released from my physical body because I've had accidents and different things have happened throughout my time. And so I'm still experience different levels of that. And it's not comfortable. When I feel the sensation of a bone breaking and what that really feels like, it's just like, whoa, I
mm,
don't know why I'm feeling this, but okay. And I just let that pass through me, right? And then I feel more myself,
mm,
right? So that I have never regretted that
mm,
experience of feeling being right here, being present right now, even when it's
mhm.
excruciatingly painful. Because the
That's
level of
good.
freedom and the level of access that I can use very practically here in my
Mhm.
job, in my relationships, cutting the grass, brushing my dog. I mean,
Making money.
making money. And yeah,
Yeah,
lo
yeah, everything.
deciding what the
Yeah.
direction my company needs to go.
Mhm.
Like when that level of frequency is used, that level of God consciousness, mana, life force energy
Right.
is
Mhm.
used, it's like our world is way better.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
Given where we're going with this, Janet, I'm actually, and I know we have a goal of trying to make these shorter. How do you feel about the next podcast we do is on our strategies, tips, and advice for how to stay in your body?
oh, I'm game. I'm game for
I
that.
feel like that would be really good because we're obviously going to do it from a very
Yeah.
broad energy perspective. And there are so many ways that I know that you've helped your community do that and, for yourself even, and the very same for me.
Yes,
And
I know you.
we've already, I think, set a firm case down in this episode for the case for staying in your body, the case
Yeah.
for being human, right? And then like, okay, how to do that. Tips for
Embracing
how
it.
to do that.
Yeah.
Embracing it. Yeah.
Because we really can't experience that level of love without being in
Mhm.
the body. Then it's theoretical.
Ah,
Like love in a
I know.
different, hanging out in the ceiling is not the same as love in your body. It's like
No.
full body love is like, whoa. There's nothing like that. And those are those moments. I mean, you can
Mm.
experience it with a loved one, you can experience it with nature, you can
Mhm.
it's doing anything. And the other example I wanted, because it's just popped up again, so I want to share it. Um, I love this idea. I was like, wait, I'm doing mundane tasks, and how come I feel crappy when I'm doing them? Like
Mm.
that wasn't okay with me anymore.
Mhm.
So I started, and at the time, my ex had had a stroke, and so I was doing more dishes you know,
Mm.
than I had been before she had her stroke. And so I really, I just started like, okay, well, let's just see how we can do this differently. And this is applicable no matter what you're doing. So I started to really pay attention to what I'm doing, right? To
Mm.
like what the water feels like and bubbles. Oh, the bubbles, the soap bubbles.
Mm.
Anything that works with plasma or loves like
Yeah.
reflected light. Like if you start noticing what happens when you're
Mm.
doing dishes with those bubbles, you're like, wow. And so I started having a deeper appreciation because I want my mundane. It doesn't have to be, I'm in, 100% joy all the time. And I
Yeah.
want to be in a level of appreciation
Mhm.
for this life and even the mundane things. So
Mm.
that really shifts everything. And I get to cycle back around because there's plenty of people that complain about a lot of tasks that don't have to be so torturous, right?
Mhm.
And I'll fall back into that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the mail lady who's like, I've got all these Amazon packages now. I was like, well, maybe it won't be. And she's like, oh no, this is awful. I was like, okay,
Okay.
you could be Santa
Janet's
Claus,
it's
but
awful.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I
Mhm.
just like really that invitation to whatever it is that I'm doing, the level of consciousness. And like I said, we're not on all the time, right? Like, nah, that's not what I'm talking about. But to have it what we
It's available all the time, whether we're on it or not.
that's
Yeah, and we've talked about that before. The light isn't something we connect to, the light is something we are.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Oh, great. So
So
embodiment,
good, Janet.
it's the
Yeah,
key, man. It's
so big.
the you want to have the best life you've ever had, ever, try it, and we will give tips and
Yes, we'll do that in the next episode, but I love that we did this today. Thank you for recommending this one, Janet. There is nothing like allowing your light into your humanness with everything you're doing, with everything you are. And it might feel misplaced. It might feel like, oh, I'm not supposed to be this loving in, I'm not supposed to feel this love for my boss or my broker, you know what I mean? Or that sort of thing. But we're not talking about romantic love. We're talking about God's love.
Mhm.
And when you can put that maybe in the context for your brain of sisterly love, brotherly love in the idealized state, then it's like, oh, well, that's easy, right?
Mhm.
It's just such a gift we give ourselves, and it's a huge gift we give this world. They can feel it,
Absolutely.
and we can feel it. So it's a win-win.
Why why would I want to shut off the flow of
Mm.
God through me as me? When you
Yeah.
think about if anything would be a sin, I don't really, like that language, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
use it here. Like, to me,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like that level of stinginess, and I went and bought some things from a woman today off of Facebook Marketplace, and I felt such love for this woman,
Mhm.
and I almost wanted to go
Mhm.
throw my arms around her, and I was like, "Wait, you have to be socially, there's a social." Right? But it's just like we had this really beautiful connection, and we saw
Mhm.
each other, and we shared, and it was really great.
That's so good.
So
Mm.
that's just kind of, yes, that was a yes to what you said. That was a big yes.
I love it. Okay, that's a wrap for podcast number 7. You guys, thank you so much for subscribing if you haven't. Thank you so much to each of our newsletters. It's been, I love the system that we have, Janet, for this. And thank you for any comments that you leave. Thank you for doing a thumbs up and liking it. It's just very encouraging. We're making time for this, and so far, so good. And any encouragement that you can give us if you're enjoying it and want to share it with others, we just are very grateful. So thank you. Is it number 7? Is that right? Is this number 7?
Yeah. I know I had
Do
to
I have the
write
right
it
number?
down.
I have the right number. Do I
7.
have it right?
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Jill, and big love to everybody.